Well, we're going to get started. First, I just want to thank everyone for coming out today. This has been an unbelievably tragic and painful week for our country and our community. The shootings that we have seen are heartbreaking on so many levels. On behalf of the residents of Grand Rapids, I extend our community's deepest condolences to those impacted by the violence in Louisiana, Minnesota, Texas, and really across the country. We stand together today as a community, as Grand Rapidians, with a commitment to listen to one another and to work together to build trust and relationships. Those of us on the City Commission, and I'm grateful for my colleagues that are here today, and at City Hall, we stand in partnership. We stand in partnership with our community to ensure that all voices are heard and that we create a community in which everyone feels safe. We are committed to continuing on the path to strengthening community and police relations as part of a plan that was co-designed with and by the community. We are committed to nonviolence, and we are committed to unity. We are committed to bringing people together to build relationships and to build trust. As a community, we have already done some good work together, and we've done this through inclusivity, but we know that there is still a lot of work to do. We need, every single one of us, we need an unwavering commitment to collectively do better and to eliminate disparities. By working together, I believe we can establish a collective goal and we can create lasting positive change for everyone. I'm really delighted today and honored to be sitting up here with our community partners. And next, I'll turn to Clee Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor Bliss. I'm Clee Jackson. I'm the president for the local branch of the NAACP, Greater Grand Rapids NAACP. And I have to say I'm quite disturbed. We have gotten or received dozens of calls about this from our constituents. And I think the real issue here is we cannot address issues like this by having glossed over media and marketing campaigns. That's a fact. We have to address these issues from an institutional and a systemic basis. Period, hands down. Our condolences definitely go to all of the officers in Dallas, their families, their friends. I personally have family members who are a part of law enforcement, and I could not even imagine if I were to get a call like that. But there is a bigger issue. The bigger issue is that we really need to get a handle on addressing and improving community police relations across this country. We've done great work here. We have done tremendous work specifically with the Grand Rapids Police Department and their leadership in the city of Grand Rapids. But that's just the start. The other issue is I appreciate the chief pulling this together and his staff and all others. But the other issue that we have from an NAACP perspective is where is in this level of outcry when black men and women and other people of color and kids are being executed at the hands of law enforcement. There is no justification in terms of what happened in Dallas. I want to be very clear about that. But there needs to be the same level of outcry from elected officials, many who are in this room and who will be watching this, and law enforcement agencies across this country. In 2015, we had 1,000 deaths that occurred while people were in custody across the United States. So my question is, when are we going to stand up and outcry like we're doing right now about that? When will that happen? And when will change actually take place? This is not about an issue of race. We know that black people and people of color have been profiled for centuries. This is an issue of humanity. When somebody can look in the face of another human being and say, I want to kill you and murder you because of the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, or your gender, that is just not right. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be politically correct here today, but I am upset. And I refuse to have the Black Lives Matter message co-opted at the convenience of local elected officials and law enforcement. I refuse to. It will not happen under my leadership as a president of the NAACP. That will not happen. The other part, and this is my last point, I understand I was sent by one of our constituents that I had no knowledge of the release on Wood Radio. And I understand that the GRPD will be doubling up their patrols this weekend, okay? So the question is, how are black people and brown people, how do we double up? How are we going to double up and protect ourselves from being stopped allegedly for having a broken tail light? How are we going to double up and protect ourselves? And again, we've had a lot of work done, and I applaud the mayor, I applaud the commission, I applaud all of the community partners that have been involved in the work that we've done. And we've done great stuff in this city, respective to improving community and police relations. And I applaud the chief. But again, I cannot be used or co-opt or have our message co-opted. That just is not going to happen, because I have 1,000+ members that I'm responsible to. And that's not going to happen. So the bigger question is, when are we going to address this from an issue of humanity? And the other question is, when are we going to put the necessary resources and access to mental health care that's necessary, that we all have been running away from, quite frankly? So when are we going to do those things? So thank you.
I'll be very succinct before we open it up for questions. Obviously, this has been a horrific week for our nation. Horrific for law enforcement, horrific for communities of color. And I think what makes Grand Rapids unique is that we're here collectively to discuss the issues. We're here to work collaboratively to make things better than they are. And as Clee pointed out, we've been working since January of 2015 on a 12-point plan that has positioned us much further ahead than our counterparts across the nation. Everything from body-worn cameras to bias-based training to traffic studies. This department, this community, and this commission has really taken the lead in ensuring public safety, transparency, accountability, and trust. To Clee's point, the one specific, a little bit of a misrepresentation or perhaps a misexplanation, if you will, regarding the officers doubling up. Just as those in this room feel emotionally drawn by the events of the last 3 or 4 days, so too do our officers. Just over 5 years ago, we went through the Dantzler incident as a community and as a police department. Today marks the anniversary of Robert Kosminski's death. And as a profession, today sees 12 officers shot and 5 that will be buried. By putting officers together in a car, it offers that emotional support. It offers someone to listen to, someone to talk to. That's really the purpose behind this. It's good, best practices. They're there for each other, but they're also there for the community. And that's what that's the message that I want to resonate today. And that's what I think makes Grand Rapids special. This is not an issue that should be dividing us. This is an issue that should be uniting us. I appreciate the mayor coming here on short notice. I think it speaks to the relationship that we have with the NAACP. That Clee and I were on the phone early this morning discussing what we could put out collectively to address the tragedies that we're in the midst of as a country. And I appreciate you being here as well. So thank you.
Chief Rahinsky, James Gemmell, WJRW. I think it was in this very room on this very day 5 years ago, we were discussing the Roderick Dantzler massacre, Chief Belk and Mayor Hartwell at the time, and here we are 5 years later, different city and different situation, but violence with the community and all these issues are still persisting. Grand Rapids has the body cams. Does that provide enough transparency and some of these other things that you've mentioned, or do we need to do something even more in terms of addressing some of the issues that Clete said, such as mental health?
No, the body cams are certainly not a cure-all. But the things that we're trying to do, which is everything from the community-based programs to the interactions that we're having on a daily basis with members of the community, building trust, building relationships, that's what's going to get to the root of the problems that Clete alluded to. The issues that Clete speaks of are not unique to Grand Rapids. They're issues that are of a national significance. They're issues that as a country we've done a very poor job at addressing. It's an opportunity for us to be introspective as a profession, for us to be introspective as a nation in terms of what we need to do next. I think what you see us doing here in Grand Rapids and what we've been doing for the last year and a half really speaks to the heart of this community and the heart of the men and women who wear this uniform.
I've been seeing on Facebook some plans for some rallies, one tonight, one on the 16th. Given what happened in Dallas, what are your plans for a potential rally tonight and later on in the month?
We've had those rallies before here in Grand Rapids, and to the credit of the organizers, those rallies have gone on without any problems. It's my full expectation and anticipation that that'll be the same situation tonight and next week as well, or I'm sorry, tomorrow night and next week. But we have reached out to the organizers. I think that's an opportunity for us to send a message as a community. I'd like us to actually be a part of those demonstrations. I would hope that the message of those demonstrations is that we as a community won't stand for violence against officers, and that we also recognize that as a profession, as a community, there's continuing growth that needs to occur. So ideally, I would like us to have a role, and I'd like that message to be all-encompassing, and I'm hoping that occurs.
Do they seem willing to do that?
I was on Facebook myself, and I tried to contact the organizers. I'm waiting to hear back, but I'm optimistic that we will.
Where's that at, tomorrow night's rally?
So it's posted on Facebook that it'll be at Rosa Parks, but I'm, again, waiting to hear back from the organizers.
Well, then we had bullets flying there a few years back, did we not, on Monroe Center, right outside of that location at some of that? You recall that?
I don't recall the incident that you're referencing.
Yeah, there were gunshots fired one night during a big incident out there.
One of the issues with the Louisiana department was that they said the cameras fell off, and so he was withholding the tape and all that. What is in place here in Grand Rapids so that those cameras and that tape doesn't go missing?
I'm unfamiliar with what type of camera Baton Rouge was wearing. What I can speak on is the camera that we're wearing, which is held in place by an extremely robust magnet. It takes a concerted effort to remove that camera. If you get your finger between the magnet and the camera, you're going to get pinched. Having said that, if you're in the midst of a tussle, and if you're facing aggression from someone of equal size, it's certainly possible that two grown men or a man and woman rolling on the ground being combative, that camera could come dislodged. Having said that, I'm confident that the camera that we purchased is the best one on the market right now and has the least likelihood of that occurring.
Chief, I'm sitting here listening, and I've been involved for a couple of years in trying to deal with sometimes police-community relationships and community relationships. As I'm looking at this the totality of what's happening, I think it's out of your control. I think it's out of the city's control. And I think that what's happening is we've got entrepreneurs and business people at the top that have shipped jobs and stuff out of the country and left big gaps of employment, big gaps of insurance, big gaps of stuff like that in our communities, mostly in our inner cities where black folks live, and we can't even get a job. When we talk about, I don't know if Michigan, when we talk about a 59% unemployment rate in the black community, I mean, that's like, I mean, it's hard to even fathom that. 59% unemployed, so you're talking about just about everybody you see is unemployed and sitting around with idle time. I don't have no insurance, I don't have no life savings. When I get old, I don't have no Social Security coming. So we have let big business take us on a ride. So when is somebody gonna rein in business and say, hey, you guys got a responsibility to this country, to this country? Because this country is being taken to hell in a handbasket by business people just saying, I gotta make money. And I don't want that 1% to have all the money, and nobody's saying that the people at the lower rung has gotta have an increase, gotta have a job, gotta have anything except for a temp service job. So here we got people starving in the midst of us.
If I could, Mr. Mayhew, I direct your question to the mayor and then give Mr. Jackson an opportunity to speak as well.
And Commissioner, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is not an easy issue. It's very complex, and at the core of it is around economic opportunity and empowerment. And as Clee said, this is a result of years and years and years of systemic racism, and there's a lot of work to be done. And you're absolutely right. We as a community, every single one of us, including the business community, needs to step up and say we're going to be a part of the solution. That we care about this community, we care about the people here, and we want to make sure that there's access to opportunity. So you're absolutely right. To me, today is, and we've said this in the past, it's a call to action. It's come with us and make this a better place. Help to resolve this issue, and a big piece of it is economic opportunity and empowerment. Yeah.
Excuse me. First of all, thank you for your opportunity. I'm from Heartside Ministries. My name is Billy Austin. I'm the hospitality coordinator there. I keep hearing what Grand Rapids is doing and what Grand Rapids is trying to do. I heard the chief and the president and the mayor. I really appreciate you all doing this. This is the first step and sign of saying that you want to do something. Okay, let's go back to where it's that the mindset of humanity. Okay, here in the United States, we have the mentality of black and white. We all should be on the same level of playing field, but we're not. The mentality of a black man is that I'm gonna get killed. I don't like law enforcement. The community relations, yes, that needs to be more. So the mentality of a young black man won't have that, or a young black woman. Even a young white or white young man shouldn't have that, because I should live my life how I want to. So it should be more community involvement with the kids in school. Let's start there first, okay? Second of all, I heard that the police officers in Dallas, yes, my heart goes out to that. But what about those two gentlemen's families there? I don't want to get that phone call neither that my brother or my sister got killed. So that's why I say a level playing field. No murders from anybody's family, whether a police officer or a citizen, is not relevant. It's not cool. Because we are all human beings here in America, and we all should be trying to get along. But deeply embedded has been racism since over 500 years ago. I don't like myself, I don't like you, because you're white, I'm black. You're against me, I'm against you. We need to stop that. Because if we don't, it's gonna keep being more problems like it is for the last 3 days on the news. CNN, it's gonna be like that. So we have to stop thinking I'm better than you, I got a suit on, I have a gun on my hip, you're gonna do what I tell you to do, or this is what it is. So more training for police officers, more community involvement to where it's that I understand your job and you understand my position. What Mr. Mayhew said is true. Okay, like I say, I work with them mentally, I work with those every day that come in my business at Heartside Ministries. I work with them every day, and I try to counsel, I try to teach, I try to help. But I'm just one person, okay? You as the community, the leaders in the community, Mayor, NAACP chief, you gotta get out here more. You gotta see your face.
Let me say something to that.
Well, so if we can, I don't want this to be a debate. If we can get the media questions first, and then we can have a discussion afterward, I appreciate just in respect to the time.
I would say,
Sure.
let's let Reverend Woody speak.
First, I want to say that the chief has been out there, and I want to give him some kudos for that. I mean, he has been out there, he has made some things happen, and he's making a change with the Grand Rapids Police Department. Well, he has been out there in front of the NAACP, and I think we got a wonderful mayor that's going to also push, and the city commission is going to make things happen as well. But I do think that one thing I want to make a point, and that is I read yesterday's paper about the Dantzler case. After reading that, I was very dissatisfied. I did not like the fact that the press would take that article and memorialize it at a time like this when we got these incidents that are occurring in Baton Rouge and also in Minnesota. And then we get yesterday evening's event. I mean, when I looked at the article, the first thing that entered into my mind was, here we go again. We're making African-American males look dangerous. And that's not necessarily the case, but that's what happens when the press write articles, and I'm not sure if they got their facts right, but it hurts everybody across the board. And that's not fair. So you're talking about coming together?
Yes.
We need to deal with how we teach our children about racism and hatred.
Yes.
That's the problem right there. South Africa was able to get over some of their problems by repenting and dealing with their racism. America has not done it. Has not done it. It still teaches hatred. And that's where the problem lies. Do you guys know that there's a problem going on in Atlanta, Georgia right now with a group of plans to block I-75? You heard that? I just got a call before I got here from one of my friends. You know, might be true, it may not be true, but they're armed. So we're sitting on a keg of dynamite. But Grand Rapids has an opportunity not to let that happen. And I think the things that we put in place right now in the communication, working on it, has been great. So getting out and doing this is a plus for us. And yeah, there's some things that we got to do. But I think all of us, African American, Hispanic, Asian, all communities got to communicate and talk. And we got to deal with the racism that exists. We don't talk about that. It's real. It's out there. Are you afraid sitting next to me?
No way.
Okay, yes you are.
No. Why would you point that out?
Yeah, so, again,
Just got a response from you, that's all.
Okay.
as I said earlier, we know that racism has existed for centuries, and we know that. And we know from a historical context the relationship between law enforcement and specifically the black community. But I think, again, as I said, the whole message of humanity is somehow getting lost. It's getting lost. And we have to, I think, address it from that perspective. And again, as I said, and I'll keep saying, we cannot co-opt the Black Lives Matters message. And these issues cannot be addressed through, like I said, these glossed over media marketing campaigns. And you are exactly right. We have to come together as a community is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, sir.
And that's important. But it takes all of us. It takes all of us. It just doesn't take the NAACP and the city and other organizations. It takes all of us collectively and individually from a perspective of authenticity. That's what it takes. The economic piece, that's a whole nother big issue that I think, again, it takes all of the players to get to the table to address that piece of it. And so again, I think that, I would like to see, again, and from our constituents and from an NAACP perspective, is when you have black men, women, and children being executed at the hands of law enforcement, there should be as much outcry from law enforcement agencies across this country and elected officials, period. Because those lives are lives, they're human. And so there should be some outcry as well, as much outcry. It shouldn't be an afterthought. It should not be an afterthought.
But if we have code blue that most the unseen law, the unseen rules that people operate by. Because most code blue is deniable. Oh, it don't happen. We don't have this, no such thing as code blue. But there is such thing as code blue.
I didn't want to detract from the significance of the tragedies that have occurred this week by speaking about particular programs. Having said that, we've got a handout that has an update of the 12-point plan that was initiated in January of 2015. Touches on some of the things that we've been doing consistently and very consciously to build trust in the community. Everything from the relationship with the Boys and Girls Club, to having a continual presence in the schools, to our Police Explorers, Citizens Academy, Youth Academy. I just got back from Washington, D.C., where I had an opportunity to compare notes with other law enforcement agencies from around the country. And I'd like to say I came back with new ideas. Well, what I came back with was validation. Validation that there's not a community in this country, there's not a police department in this country that is doing more or who has done more quickly post-Ferguson than the Grand Rapids Police Department. So kudos to this community for being supportive. Kudos to the relationships that we have, that if the cameras were to pan this room, you've got Darrell Ross from Link, you've got people from the Community Relations Committee, you've got people from the clergy. This obviously was not a long time in the planning. These were calls that were made within the last hour to bring community leaders together for a dialogue and to reassure our community as a whole that we're here together. We speak with one voice. That voice is cooperative. We want to solve these issues that are plaguing our country.
How receptive were they in Washington? I know you've been out front and being very progressive on this whole thing. How receptive were some of the other police chiefs in Washington at that meeting to some of the ideas you presented?
As you heard from the gentleman at Hartside, I think everyone recognizes, and the unfortunate truth is, it's going to take more than a slick public service ad to attract people of color, minorities, and at this point in time, really anyone who would want to don this uniform, considering the risk, considering what some people would say is, in times, can be thankless. Having a son in the police department and coming from a police family, these are tough times for our profession, but we recognize that they're tough times for our country. They're tough times for communities of color, and we don't want to make this about one side against the other. What this needs to be is an opportunity to come together. Overwhelmingly, this community, and I firmly believe overwhelmingly this country, has that spirit within us. Of course, there's going to be those rare outliers like what occurred in in Dallas last night. But having said that, overwhelmingly, we've got an opportunity for change. And I think to let this crisis pass without using it to spur us to change, I think would be a missed opportunity.
Any more media questions?
Just one. So, Mr. Jackson, when you talk about this concept of humanity, and these are concepts that we're talking about, what would this specifically look like from an institutional level? I know that there are classes out there that are like intergroup dialogue, where it's a group of people from all different races, ethnicities, backgrounds, and they talk about these types of issues. What would it specifically look like?
Well, I don't have the specifics, but what I will say, I think a good starting point is for us to start with the faith community. I mean, when I talk about humanity, I'm talking about issues of the heart. And so that's the job of the faith community, to change hearts and minds and spirits, right? And so I think that would be a good starting point. And then bringing all of the other players to the table to see exactly what that looks like. You know, racism is a heart issue. Bias is a heart issue. And so then it comes down to a humanity issue. So again, like I said earlier, how could I, as a human being, look anybody, any of you in this room in the eye and want to actually murder you without feeling no remorse? That's a hard issue. That's an issue of humanity. And so I think it's something that we have to explore. I think it's something we have to explore.
Well said.
Thank you all for attending. Appreciate it.